Let's bring in our panel. Tim Pawlenty, President and CEO of the Financial Services Roundtable, and of course the former governor of Minnesota, CNN's chief congressional correspondent, the tireless Dana Bash, and former Clinton White House press secretary Joe Lockhart. I want to start with this Washington Post report. Business groups stand by Boehner, plot against Tea Party. And there's a quote from a man named Dirk Van Dagen, longtime chief lobbyist for the National Association of Wholesaler Distributors, who's known Boehner since the lawmaker's first election. He says, "I don't know of anybody in the business community who takes the side of the Taliban minority." I assume he's referring to the Tea Party. Tim, is that how the business world views what happened over the last 3 weeks? The Taliban minority seized control of the House Republicans?
Well, a few things. First of all, I don't think people should put a Taliban label on any elected representative or public servant. I think that's over the line just in terms of rhetoric and what that implies. Two is the business community, of course, is more pragmatic than, say, the Tea Party in terms of their politics and desired outcomes. But the idea that they're going to come in and systematically take out Tea Party members is probably misunderstood. The Tea Party members, for the most part, are in districts or states that lean pretty substantially, in their direction, and the idea that they're mostly politically vulnerable is probably not going to materialize. There'll be some groups that will try that, but I'll suggest to you, Jake, it won't be successful. And then lastly, as to the Tea Party, keep in mind, it's one slice of a broader coalition. They overplayed their hand here. One of the adages that you got to keep in mind is when you negotiate, the person with the leverage wins.
Right.
They didn't have the leverage here.
Or any.
But there's an analog in the Democratic Party to the Tea Party. When you look at groups like Occupy, when you look at groups that want to just recklessly defund the Department of Defense, they don't represent the whole Democratic Party, and the Tea Party represents only one slice of the Republican Party.
Is that a fair analogy?
It is, but it misses an important point, which is within the Republican Party, the Tea Party does have the leverage. We just spent 16 days painfully. Dana hasn't slept in 16 days because of the leverage they had. The business community doesn't have that much influence with the Tea Party. The Tea Party and most Republicans are more worried about someone coming from their right, coming from the Tea Party to challenge them than anyone on the left. So this all has to be resolved. I think it's very fair analysis, but the difference between the Tea Party and Occupy, or a group on the left, if those groups don't have leverage within the Democratic Party right now, the Tea Party does. And that's the fundamental problem for the party.
And Dana, let's talk about the future of Democrat-Republican negotiations, because that's obviously where this is going to go now. There's going to be negotiations over a budget. When President Obama came out last night, before the House vote had finished, there were a lot of House Republicans who were very worried that he just was misreading House Republicans all over again, that he might be driving up no votes by even putting his blessing on the deal.
He did. Yeah, and I think the bigger problem today, now that the sun is up, is that they saw the remarks that he made this morning as equally not helpful.
Responsible Republicans, that line?
Right. Well, not just that, but also really a lecture. They saw it as a classic Obama lecture, not an olive branch, not a period, a time to sort of say, let's take a breath, unite. Now, I've also talked to some Republicans who say, we deserve it. He deserves 24 hours to gloat because they feel like that this is such a bad strategy. And again, these are Republicans talking. But I really do think that just in talking to several Republicans today who have some clout in the House caucus, that the irony of this is this might actually break the dam. And it might make it easier for them, the people who call themselves pragmatic Republicans in the House caucus, to work along party lines and give Boehner the power to work across party lines, because he fought the good fight, and he's got the trust now of people who maybe didn't trust him before and now see that it was not a good idea to do what he did.
Joe, where do you see this going now?
Well, I agree. There is an opportunity here. I mean, John Boehner is still Speaker today. I think if you would ask the question 2 or 3 weeks ago, if he made the Republican Party walk the plank and break the Hastert rule and, side with Democrats, I think a lot of people thought he would be putting his speakership on the line. And he did, and he's still Speaker today. And I think if you look at the last time we did this, 1995, look at 1996, a period of really important legislative accomplishments, bipartisan Democrats on welfare reform, health care, raising the minimum wage. There is a possibility.
Balanced budgets.
Yeah, balanced budgets. So we have the possibility here. There still is a fight that has to be resolved, though, within the caucus, because even today, it's not clear what lessons were learned within the Republican Party, and we're going to find that out.
Governor, final thought?
Well, there's a number of lessons learned. One is when you bluff and your bluff gets called and you don't have the cards, it's embarrassing. Number two is if you're going to negotiate and put a stake in the ground and say, I'll do something dramatic unless X happens, then and you don't do something dramatic, again, it doesn't look so good. But the Republican Party is going to go through a sorting out process, but keep in mind, the energy, and I think the media misunderstands this, at the grassroots level, leans now libertarian, leans now Tea Party.
Oh, absolutely.
But rather than putting labels on people, saying, look, it's the, the crazy group X, Y, or Z, or it's the Tea Party this, or the libertarians that, why don't we just talk about the issues? And one of their main concerns, as inartfully as they sometimes present it, is, what are we going to do about these structural spending problems?
Right.
That's not a crazy proposition. That's not a crazy question. It's a legitimate question. So instead of throwing labels around, let's talk about the issues and what really needs to get fixed.
All right, Governor, Joe, Dana, thank you so much. We really